Those of you who turned up to the pro-Israel rally on Sunday, kol hakavod, well done. And we've got a few clips on that rally because it was done in peace, singing Israeli songs, and I think it's a clear difference between the morality and the values of Israel supporters and those of Hamas. And we have other clips and other videos of other demonstrations that have taken place, particularly on the continent of Europe, where these anti-Israel protests have broken out in violence. I was in the National Convention Centre in Washington DC on Monday night, and as I was there were protesters and demonstrators inside hassling Israel's ambassador to the United States when he was actually speaking. And the level of hatred in their eyes and anger in their hearts really shows you these people for who they are. They're not peace-loving people. These supporters are violent and hate-filled people. Yes, it's sad, it's desperately sad to see so many innocent Palestinians being killed and caught up in this conflict. But the Palestinian peoples themselves in Gaza are much better if they are liberated from the tyranny of Hamas and able to live in peace with Israel.
Actually, it's interesting. I had an email from some of our supporters who went to the rally on Sunday afternoon, and that they made the comment, yes, about the, you know, and you can see it there on that clip, about the very joyful, happy, you know, almost festive atmosphere that there was. And one of the six folk who came from Salisbury got into a conversation with the policeman, you know, one of the policemen lined along the route, and he made the comment, having been at the pro-Palestinian demo a few days earlier, he actually made the comment comparing the two, and said words to the effect of how dark, that was the expression, how dark the pro-Palestinian demonstration had been in its content and the spirit in which it was carried out.
And well, to talk about the pro-Israel demonstration and the anti-Israel demonstrations that we're seeing, we're joined now by Fiona Sharpe, and she's representing Sussex Friends of Israel. Fiona, it's great to have you live with us on Behind the Headlines.
Thank you.
And yeah, it wasn't until we actually spoke this afternoon. Also, thanks to Robin for setting this interview up. So yeah, there is work that's on this programme behind the scenes. But I'm actually impressed that we actually met you with my wife at the Eco store, which was selling the soda streams back in January. So it's great to have Sussex Friends of Israel on the programme today. But can you tell us what your organisation does and the incredible work that you're doing on behalf of Israel, and the wonderful way you're utilising social media to rally support for Israel at this very critical time?
Well, thank you for that support. We are here as an advocacy group to promote what is best about Israel and to try and combat some of the really negative movements that we've seen against Israel setting up on our high streets, and trying to promote a positive side and letting people know that what they see on the headlines of the news isn't the whole story.
And can you share what it was like for you and for Sussex Friends of Israel to be at the demonstration on Sunday, to see so many in the Jewish community come out and in support of Israel, but in the way that it was conducted with nice Hebrew songs, Israeli flags waving in strong support of Israel, that was very peaceful and not full of violence and hatred like we're seeing with so many of the anti-Israel demonstrations, not only here in London, but also across Europe?
Yes, I think that's true. I think the rally was a rally in support of Israel. It wasn't against anyone. And I think that's the difference between the rallies that are going on at the moment. I think the rallies coming out in support of Israel across Europe are positive ones, conducted in a positive tone, and the rallies that are pro-Palestinian seem to be actually anti-Israel, and that of course gives them a completely different feel. The rally on Sunday was conducted in a spirit of peace and of harmony, and wasn't against anyone, just wanted to let the state of Israel and the people of Israel know that the British community stands behind them 110%. And that's not just the Jewish community. We had many Christian friends there and many atheists and people of all sorts of faiths from all walks of life who just wanted to show their positive support for Israel.
And Fiona, can I ask you, what's the difference, or this very fine line, between demonstrations against Israel and those that incite hatred and almost fall into the category of becoming anti-Semitic in their rhetoric and in their violence?
That's a really difficult question. I think that recently we have seen that the anti-Israel demonstrations have indeed become somewhat anti-Semitic in their tones. We have all seen the pictures of signs being held up at these demonstrations equating Israel with Nazis, suggesting that the behavior of the Israeli government is similar to that of the Nazi regime. And I think that once you start equating those things, then that does fall into the category of anti-Semitism. We are seeing now more and more across Europe in demonstrations and in actions by people that people are turning their anger against Jews, not against the government of Israel, which it is fair to criticize if people want, but to turn it against the Jewish communities across Europe.
And Fiona, you're part of a small Jewish community in Brighton, obviously smaller than the main Jewish community in North London. How are you and your community feeling the effects of this current conflict in which Israel's defending itself from the tyranny of Hamas's rockets and missiles?
Well, I think in Brighton we have always had a very, very strong pro-Palestinian movement, which is fine. That movement has become quite anti-Israel in the last few years, and for the last 2 weeks through the centre of Brighton there have been demonstrations against Israel, and those demonstrations have had quite a dark undertone to them. And I think for many Jewish people that is quite threatening, to see people shouting anti-Israel slogans and holding up swastikas is something that for many Jewish people is something that they find quite threatening in their own back garden.
And Fiona, how can our viewers get involved? I mean, if there are Christians who are watching in Sussex, I know that Robin's organisation, Christian Friends of Israel, are based there. But if they want to get more involved with activism, more involved in with the protests in support of Israel, defending like the Eco Store, which has sadly been closed down, and I was very sad to hear that today that. That Eco Store is no longer selling the Israeli product SodaStream, which makes us think that surely more Christians need to go out who support Israel to buy more Israeli goods, support stores and products like SodaStream or Harbour. Both are closed down. But you also mentioned that there's one in a store in Manchester now that's under threat and under attack.
Yes, that's true. I must just point out that the EcoStream store closed for commercial reasons. It didn't close for any other reasons. It wasn't as the Ahava store closed, but it no longer is here on the Brighton High Street. I think in Manchester, the Kedem store, which sells cosmetics, has been under siege for the last 5 days by anti-Israel demonstrators, but I'm very happy to see that actually just before I spoke to you, I'd seen a tweet saying that Manchester police have actually banned the demonstrators from being outside the shop. I don't know how long that's going to last, but they have said that these demonstrations are illegal and unlawful, and they have banned them from happening outside the store. So that's certainly a step in the right direction. In terms of how people can get more involved in pro-Israel activism, they can come to our website. Our website is at www.sussexfriendsofisrael.org, and that's all one word, Sussex Friends of Israel. They can follow us on Facebook. We have over 9,000 people from all across the world who regularly follow our activities on Facebook. And on Facebook, we are Sussex Friends of Israel. We also have 3,000 people who follow us on Twitter, if you like to tweet, and we are at Sussex Friends. People can get involved in what we're doing. We regularly post updates of, at the moment, what's happening in Israel. We also post updates of demonstrations, of activism that we are involved in. And just it's a way of people in the pro-Israel community being able to connect with one another, because I think sometimes in these dark days people feel a little bit isolated, and this is a way to let people know that they are all part of the same pro-Israel community.
Absolutely, and the advantage of having these TV programs is that we can actually bring some truth or and bring to light some of the facts that are not being covered by our mainstream TV coverage of this conflict, and particularly allowing Israel to have her side of the story, and to also recognising that this is not an equal fight and these two as bad as each other. This is a struggle between good and evil, and that what Israel is confronting in Hamas is a terrorist organisation that is committed to her destruction and that of the Jewish people worldwide, and has a very similar ideology to the Nazis. So how would you describe, finally, the situation in Israel, and how critical do you think that is for the nation of Israel at this time?
I think it's at a very critical point. I think that Hamas is embedded into Gaza. They are using the world's media incredibly well. I am surprised that so many well-respected media outlets are allowing themselves to be used by Hamas the way they are. They have embedded themselves amongst civilians, which is why you are seeing the civilian casualties that they are. But Israel must fight on, and Israel really has no choice but to try and rid Gaza and Israel of Hamas, not only for Israelis, but for the peace-loving people who live in Gaza. Many Palestinians want to live in peace and do not support Hamas, but have really no choice. And I think that the next few weeks are going to be critical. I see that there are talks going on behind the scenes with Egypt acting as a broker, and I'm hearing that there may be a ceasefire starting on Saturday night. That's being talked about. I think Egypt is trying to convince both sides that if there was a significant ceasefire, they might be able to bring both sides to the table. There have been 3 ceasefires already since this conflict began. Israel has upheld those 3 ceasefires. Hamas has continued to fire rockets into Israel throughout those ceasefires.
Fiona, I just want to thank you so much for being my guest today on Behind the Headlines, and keep up the excellent work that you're doing. And this is a note to our viewers that if you are living in the Sussex area, then I very much encourage you to get involved with the Sussex Friends of Israel. Get out there, let the Jewish people know they're not alone, that they are being supported, and that we're with you. So Fiona, my heart goes out to you. I think you're a fantastic advocate for Israel and the Jewish community, and for the superb work that Sussex Friends of Israel are doing in advocating the truth regarding Israel's position and mobilising so many people to be active on behalf of Israel.
Thank you very much, Simon, and for all your support.
I just want to read out a few more text messages and email. This one comes through. Simon, could you please give me the best place to send money for Israel? They are going to need help. Thanks. That's Sandra. I had to think about that one, but the organisation I recommend, if you do want to send money out, is an organisation called Operation Life Shield. It's run by a wonderful rabbi called Rabbi Shlomo Bauman, and what he does is he builds bomb shelters in Israel, protecting Israelis from rockets and missiles. I think it's a fantastic organisation, and their website is operationlifeshield.org. This just reading out this one very quickly. This one says, is there anything we can do to bring a change in the UN decision regarding Israel's war crimes? UK abstained, and that's Christine Sherrod. I think again this is something that we need to write to our MPs and to put Israel's case forward, that Israel is defending her citizens from a barrage of rocket and missiles attacks, and if it wasn't